What's up? This is Matt Dietz, and this is None of My Business. Thank you so much for listening. You can find me at www.dietzagency.com. You can find me on Twitter at Dietz Agency. You can even shoot me an email at mdietz@farmersagent.com if you want to reach out to me. Today's guest is a gentleman named Michael Strickland. Michael is a writer, and we have a wonderful conversation about why that is getting to be more and more important every day. As we all turn to our computers and our phones and stare at our screens all day, Michael is the type of person that will write things that you want to read, okay? We live in the age of big data and big opinions, and everybody's writing stuff and everybody's putting it out online and everybody's reading it. So the question is, what should you be writing, and how do you get it read? And we talk about both of those topics with Michael. He writes for small businesses. He helps them figure out what kind of topics should be written about in their industry, and he also helps us figure out how to write certain headlines so our stuff gets read. It's no different than building a website and putting it out there. You know, you have to drive people to your website. It's no different. You know, writing an article is the same thing. You can write it and put it out there, but how are you going to get people to read it? So we have a really great conversation about how writing is becoming more and more important and how a writer like Michael can help you. So I hope you enjoy our conversation. Speaking of reading and writing, how about listening? Have you listened to an audiobook recently? There's a service out there called audible.com where you can download hundreds of thousands of audiobooks and listen to them on the fly. You throw it on your phone, you can listen to it in your car, you can listen to it at the gym, and you can listen to just about any book you want. I use it. It's a wonderful tool. It's helped me learn a lot. I want to give you a free book and a free 30-day subscription. So if you go to audibletrials.com/noneofmybusiness, go get a free book. All right. I hope you enjoy our show. Thanks, Michael. Well, I am joined today with Michael Strickland. Hi, Michael.
How you doing?
Good. How are you?
Life is great.
Good. I appreciate your time, and we're looking forward to hearing what you have to say. I like to start these off with, not a lot of people are from Idaho or natives. I'm not. Why don't you tell us where you're from and how you got here?
Yeah, not a lot of people are from Idaho. That is in fact true.
Yeah.
And I'm from a place called New Jersey. So talk about that question. I get that a lot. You know? How in the world did you end up in Idaho?
Right.
Well, my simple answer is my wife and marriage.
That's a common theme for a lot of good women that have come out of Idaho.
Absolutely.
Yep.
Her mother is from Idaho Falls, and my wife was visiting her sister in New Jersey. I met her in church on Sunday, and married her 5 months later. And we kind of flipped a coin. Do we want to stick around east or come on out here? I did this as an experiment, you know, maybe for a semester or two, teach a little writing, possibly as much as a year. And that was more than 13 years ago. So,
how's the experiment going?
The experiment is still going. I'm still testing out Idaho 13 years later and 3 children later.
Oh, wow. Good for you. Good. So you like it here?
Yeah.
This home?
It's home for me.
Yeah.
It's funny. We were just talking to my 6th grader, actually, and all she knows is Idaho. Yeah. All she remembers is the house that we live in right now.
Yeah.
And then, of course, we have a 4th grader and a 2nd grader. It's the same thing. So I had a child born in Idaho Falls, a child born in Pocatello, and one born in Boise. So
there you go.
I guess you'd say Idaho is a special place for me.
Absolutely. Good for you. Now, you are an author.
Yeah.
Yes. So let's talk a little bit about your writing career. All right. Now, how many books have you written?
I have a dozen books out.
A dozen books. When did you publish your first book?
My first book came out in 1992. It's Poems That Sing to You. It's an anthology. It's poems about music that are musical in their language.
Oh, wow. Well, tell me, how did you get into writing?
That's a great question. My advisor, when I was working on my advanced graduate work at New York University, was Dr. Bernice Cullinan. Now the late Dr. Bernice Cullinan passed away, and great loss for literature and literacy, but she's still here with us in spirit. And ironically, Dr. Cullinan was actually my mother's graduate advisor. My mom is Dorothy Strickland, professor emeritus at Rutgers and had been a chair at Columbia also. So Dr. Cullinan advised my mom, and then later stuck around long enough to advise
Wow.
me. And simply put, she called me one day and mentioned that she was the poetry editor of an imprint. An imprint is a section of a publisher. So they have their poetry section, their young adult section, their nonfiction section, and she was the section on poetry, and just asked if I wanted to submit a book. And about a year later, Poems That Sing to You was published.
Okay. Now, had you been writing a lot up to that point?
Oh yeah, I was always involved in writing. In elementary school, I'd write poems and stories, and I would include my fellow classmates and get up in front of the class and read those. Everybody always used to love it. So it's always part of what I did. And then my mom, being a professor of education and reading and language arts, was an enormous influence, always getting me involved in literary circles at a very early age.
Okay. So do you think writing is something that anybody can learn to do well?
Absolutely.
Yeah.
One of the things we would talk about a lot when I was in graduate school was all children can learn. So if all children can learn, what does that mean? It's an emergent literacy perspective, emergent literacy. And that means that literacy begins at birth and goes on throughout life. So if all children can learn, then all young adults can learn and all adults can learn. So there's no such thing in any kind of class, whether it's developmental or special ed, as somebody who can't learn. And since that applies to learning in general, it applies to writing.
Okay. Very good. What was it like getting your first book published?
I remember I actually kind of broke out in hives. I was so excited. I just freaked out. I mean, when they sent me it's called an F&G. It's a folded and gathered copy. And those go to reviewers and the author, of course, to see what it's going to look like once it's bound. And it was an amazing experience for me, and it really uplifted my life. I like to think about what Troy McClain, the Axis CEO, always says. We inspire, uplift, and serve. And having a book basically launched me because it gave me something tangible to go out to schools, to churches, to nonprofits with. Now I was an author, and I could recite poetry, read poetry, but actually talk about a lot of things and be an influence in my community.
Okay. Now, you said your first book was published in 1992.
Yeah.
Which was, what, 23 years ago.
There you go.
How different is it now to get something published than it was? I mean, the publishing world's totally different now, right?
Absolutely.
With the digital world and the Kindle and all of that, and self-publishing and things like that. Do you think that's better for authors to be able to self-publish?
You know what? I can give you the detailed answer. It's not a simple yes or no, because is the world different today? Obviously it is, and for a variety of reasons. On the one hand, it's easier than ever to get published. On the other hand, it's harder than ever to get into an established publisher. For example, Poems That Sing to You was published by Boyd's Mills Press, which is owned by Highlights for Children. Everybody's heard of Highlights magazine. You see them at the doctor's office.
The dentist's office.
Right. Today, trying to get published by an established house like that one is just as hard as ever. Now, the flip side is, of course, self-publishing is easier than ever. Amazon, Barnes & Noble, as well as a bunch of other sites can give you a platform basically for free to publish your book, and then they'll take royalties. The flip side, of course, is then you have to do all the promotion, the distribution, all that kind of stuff yourself. And there's a flip side to the flip side, which is self-publishing is better than ever. So writing itself is as important as it ever has been. In fact, now's the time. In our digital age, now's the time to be a writer.
Yeah. Great answer. Have you self-published anything?
Yeah, my latest book is actually self-published. It's poems throughout the school day using poetry across the curriculum. It had actually been accepted by a publisher, and I pulled it back because I realized that I'd like to have more control over my creation. And one of the things publishers do is they have a list, and on their list they have certain parameters. So the title Poems Throughout the School Day didn't work for them. They had to call it something else.
Okay.
That title was in my heart, and I decided to give it a shot with the self-publishing, and so far that particular book has been very well received by teachers especially.
Great. Congratulations. Yeah. Tell me a little bit about your business.
Okay. IdahoContentWriting.com.
When did that start for you?
To technically that domain started maybe a year or two ago, but the business itself is the same business that you could say started in third grade, or you could say it started in '92. You and I had spoken previously, and I said I am a writer. Mm-hmm. So writer is my title, it's my task, it's who I am, and then there's all different, I guess you'd say, outlets and platforms. So that particular website, it has a link on the front page there, a little section that says my experiences with writing and what I can do for you. But it's really just a culmination of what I've been doing my whole life. So as far as referring to it as a business as opposed to just being a writer, so to speak, published author, I just started the writing for businesses specifically a couple of years ago. When I would attend the local Impact Zone Power Breakfast, and I met Brett Labbett and a bunch of other people, they really inspired me to work with businesses. They showed me that somebody like me who's a freelancer could have a good market writing for magazines and writing for newspapers, doing columns, but businesses need writers too. And the other thing, it's basic reality, businesses have money. So
That's true.
I was actually surprised with just how many ways that businesses need writers, from their Facebook page to their Twitter to the Christmas letter that the CEO wants to send out to employee manuals to just in general website content. How about the page that says about your business? How about your meet the team page? Who's writing all that content? So I basically have a ton of work with businesses, and it's been the last couple of years specifically doing that.
Okay, well, let's talk a little bit about that. How have you gone out and how have you found businesses that need your help? And because maybe a lot of businesses don't know that this is something that would be good for them yet. Yeah. Now, I started blogging just, a year and a half ago, just because I wanted to start putting my expertise somewhere that would be helpful to people. I sell insurance. I know a lot about insurance. It's not really sexy or savvy, but it's important, So I wanted to put together something that people could go to learn just the important parts of an insurance policy. And I've dabbled in the blogging world. But if you were to go to an insurance agent who wasn't getting content out there, what would you tell them? Why would you tell them it's important to get this information out there? And then how would you help them push it out there?
Okay. One of the things I would do is I'd give him a simple formula. I might sit there with my laptop and I might show him one Facebook post of mine that has reached, say, 5,000 people. Okay? Got a reach of 5,000. And now these are businessmen and businesswomen, so they think in terms of numbers and ROI and, the check clearing and all that kind of good stuff. We used to say the check clearing, now we say the card being processed or whatever.
Now it's all square, right? Yeah. Whatever.
So I'd show them a number like 5,000, and then I would say, as you see, I've had a reach of 5,000 on this blog post. That reach could have been you. And of those 5,000 people, if 90% of them blew it off, we're still left with 10%, which is 500. And of that 500, if 90% of them blew it off, we're still left with 10%. That's 50. And if 50 people were to click through and only half of them did anything, I just brought you 25 customers.
Yeah.
Okay? So that would be my sales pitch.
I would listen to you at that point.
One post. Right.
Very good. Now, how do you end up collaborating with a business on what kind of information should be pushed out for them?
I had several avenues where I first met businesses. Very first was in Napa Chamber of Commerce. I'm very appreciative to the people there. Brett Labbett and his Power Breakfast were another avenue. Aspen Morrow of Q Sciences. She has a Wednesday lunch called Aspen's Lunch and Leads. I strongly recommend anybody attend it. I met a lot of people there, so I was able to not just the long-term connection, but the initial getting to know you. I'm Michael Strickland, content writer. Aspen had a great platform for that and for anyone who wants to market their business. And then Aspen had another great thing she did. She said, before everybody leaves the room, you need to make 2 contacts and you need to make 2 appointments. So I'd get my 2 appointments and then I'd sit down and do something similar to what I talked about, show them a post with some reach and say, if we only got a sliver of this one, and remember, that's only one post. If I got you 25 customers, what if I did that 10 times? I just handed you 250 customers, right?
Yeah.
So there's the pitch, and then, of course, there's the big picture, because that's kind of the easy part,
Yeah.
The creative process is the big picture. And I go from idea to product. So there's idea, meaning, okay, so you are a restaurant and you need more people coming in the door, right?
Okay.
So we have an idea.
Yeah.
What platforms do we think would be better? Well, of course, restaurant should have Facebook. Your Facebook should be connected to Twitter. And one of the things that all the experts say, including me, is you shouldn't have too many platforms because then it gets too hard to manage. So I usually recommend choosing about 3, and then you can have some ancillary platforms like YouTube or something. But choose maybe Facebook, Twitter, and WordPress, period, right?
Right.
Just those 3. If you want to add a YouTube video, that's fine, but it's not necessarily a primary platform. You could always add videos anyway. Then what do we want to say, And the owners they know what's going on. They know that they have a Christmas special. They know that Thanksgiving is a really bad day for restaurants because most people eat at home. So they say, Michael, I want to do something on Thanksgiving. So that's when we start talking about turkeys. That's when I start thinking, well, what kind of people would go to a restaurant on Thanksgiving? Well, singles maybe, Should we gear this towards singles? Let's start doing some research. Let's look up singles.
Okay.
How about, people who are more like military traveler types, don't necessarily have the family thing going on, so we might target military. So that's the idea to creation to product. The product would be the platform. Like once you have that WordPress blog, which is integrated with your Facebook and Twitter, that's the product.
Okay. So you wouldn't just write content, you would help them build systems to push it out too?
Oh, absolutely.
Yeah.
Because these days, it's always been the case, but I guess in the old days you had a thing called a typewriter. I don't know if you have kids that don't know what a typewriter is, probably.
Yeah.
So there was always some kind of technical aspect to being a writer. I was in college in the 80s, and there was the Apple II, so we went from the typewriter to what we used to call a word processor. You probably remember that. So if
with
you
the
wanted,
floppy disks,
right? Floppy disks.
Yeah.
So if you wanted to write, you had to know not to put the floppy disk in your pocket as you're going through the airport, right? So there was always something you had to know to be a writer.
That's funny.
And going through the mail, I remember the U.S. mail, they used to scan mail, and that would ruin your disk. So there was always something to know, and now there's just a lot more technology. But if you're not in it, then you can't win it, as they say.
Okay. Well, because those are 2 very different skill sets. I mean, writing and marketing.
Yeah.
I mean, a good writer will write something that people want to continue to read and that they can learn from pretty quickly. I mean, but how do you get it read? I mean, that's the trick. It's like anybody can go to GoDaddy and get a website.
Yeah.
But why is anybody going to go there? You have to market it. So the writing content's important, but what's just as important is getting it out there. So let's talk a little bit about that. So you say you can get 5. You're showing people. Look, I did a post, and I had 5,000 people look at it. So give us some tips on how you get 5,000 people to see your post, because it's not easy.
Yeah. I've been very fortunate. I guess just having an academic background, I'm fundamentally a researcher. So to write, to teach, and to be involved in scholarly communities, I currently teach online and evenings at Boise State. So that's my other job, and I always have to just take in a lot of information and figure out how to process it, put it into models that are usable, right? We always talk about that in education. You can have all these ideas. Is there anything we can do with it? And of course, in business, it's even more so. So I have spent a lot of time scanning the experts, that is, reading articles. It's a huge area now. It's just called content marketing, right? It's this huge area, and there's some wonderful blogs and websites. If you just Google content marketing, you'll pull up some of the top articles, and it's the tried and true stuff. In some ways, it's changing all the time, but there's the old saying, the more things change, the more they stay the same. So the fundamentals are always there. For example, if you want to write a headline that grabs readers, use action words, Talk about igniting. Talk about attacking a problem.
Is hack a big word right now?
Oh, hack is a big word, yeah. Because
I see it all the time.
Creating fear is definitely suggested. You know?
6 hacks to secure your bank account or something like that, or 6 hacks to learn how to push content. I mean, I'm ready for hack to be gone, to be honest with you.
Yeah, there's the hack in the positive and hack in the negative.
Yeah,
I was referring to the idea that if you create fear, how not to get hacked, right?
Right.
All these kind of headlines do grab readers. Here's an example: 6 lies your car salesman will tell you. Okay, that kind of headline is going to bring people in. Create fear. You create the need. You appeal to emotion. Right?
Numbers are big too.
Oh, absolutely.
3 reasons, 3 ways, 6 times.
Numbers and lists. They do very well.
They do.
And then they pop up.
I read a lot of those because you can usually hit the head. I mean, if you click on a post that says, hey, 5 ways to get your content read, I mean, I'll click on that for starters. And then, because then you can and then all of the numbers will be highlighted and bolded. And any of the one, you'll be like, yeah, I do that. Okay, I do that. Oh, I haven't seen this one before. Yeah. And you'll end up reading, maybe 8% of it, but it can still be helpful.
Yeah, that's what most people do. So that's why the ones with lists get more click-throughs.
Yeah, interesting. Well, where would be a good way? I mean, again, let's talk about headlines, because you can write a beautiful piece and you can have built the infrastructure to push it out there, but for having, for getting somebody to open it is tough. So you said action words and lists. Anything else?
Kind of included in headlines is pictures, graphics. So people see the headline, they see the graphic. So think in terms of having a graphic that goes along with your headline is going to grab readers.
Okay.
Using questions is very helpful. Anything with a question mark on the end, grab the reader, make them think a little bit. And of course, think about consistency. It should be brand consistency. So all your headlines should have that same kind of tone. Are you an upbeat, sports-like organization? Are you speaking to attorneys and more scholarly people? Whatever your tone is, be very consistent in your headlines with your audience.
Very good. I like that. I want to talk a little bit about how you write for businesses. Okay. Mm-hmm. Now you're a writer, right? What if a plumber comes to you and says, "Hey, I need you to write me, a blog article a month for the year or something like that, so we can get some content out there." Now you are not a plumber, okay? And if he comes to you and says, "Hey, I need," and he gives you, 5 or 6 topics about plumbing, how do you go ahead and write an article about plumbing that's going to satisfy a guy that's been plumbing for 20 years? So how does that process work?
Right. And the trick is, don't try to satisfy the guy who's been plumbing for 25 years. You have to think about his audience. Okay. The audience is customers. Who would the audience be for a plumber, right? That's in one word, everyone, right? Everyone needs toilets, sinks, and things like that. So I would satisfy him by satisfying his audience. All the stuff we just talked about. How about a headline, what to do when your toilet overflows, right? Yeah. How to deal with freezing pipes in the winter, okay?
Yeah.
Those are things that I could research and write. So think immediately in terms of the audience. In this case, it's everybody, and then use all those tried and true tips, 5 ways to utilize my plumbing services effectively, or 5 reasons why you need to call an expert when you have a plumbing problem, right?
Yeah,
Things like that. So think in terms of audience. The audience comes and the plumber's going to be happy.
Okay. Well, how much content is enough? Is it like the more the merrier? Like push out as much as you possibly can? Yeah. I mean, I don't have an opportunity to write because I'm running a business, but I'm trying to get out, 2 or 3 things a month. Like that's what I can manage. Is there a right or wrong answer to that question? Because you want to have an audience, and you don't want to lose them. I would imagine that you don't want people to be like, well, Matt hasn't done anything in 2 months, so I'm done with Matt. How would you respond to that?
Right. Well, the way I advise clients is, once again, 3 basic platforms. You can always add something to it, link to your Instagram that you don't use as much or whatever, or your YouTube.
Yeah.
And for example, on Twitter, up to 3 tweets a day usually works pretty well. On Facebook, I would say 1 post a day. And the way I advise is to think about a balance. If you don't have anything on there for 2 months, it looks bad. People wonder if your business is even around or doing anything. If you have 10 Facebook posts a day, nobody's going to read it because Facebook is already flooded. So 10 posts a day, people aren't sitting there reading about your plumbing, 10 times a day.
Yeah.
So 1 post a day. So think in terms of, this is how I advise my businesses, think in terms of not putting out too much, but just enough so that they see that you're updating regularly. So there should be something daily, something weekly, and something monthly. And monthly could be a very simple free MailChimp newsletter, just talking about, and it can actually talk about anything. If you're a plumber, send them a MailChimp about the spring. Isn't the spring great? Just remind them, and that's branding.
It humanizes people too, right? Yeah.
People are going to remember you because they see your name all the time, and then boom, when it's time to pick up the phone, your email is right on their screen.
Yeah.
That's how you do it.
Now, you found yourself in a position, I think, pretty recently where you're really able to enjoy what you like to do most, which is write. Mm-hmm. I mean, in the past, before you were with Access, right, you were doing all of this stuff. But now here, are you just doing more writing? And you've got somebody else to help you push content out?
That's true, yeah. As we mentioned, I guess the business is michaelrstrickland.com. And if anybody wants to check out what I'm doing, including what I'm doing with Access, michaelrstrickland.com, and then, of course, idahocontentwriting.com. Those domains link back and forth to each other. And here I am with Access Consulting, owned by Troy McLean. A lot of people know Troy. He was the Idaho guy who ended up being a finalist on the first season of Donald Trump's Apprentice.
Right.
So I work now full-time for his company, and basically we help promote health, wealth, and happiness. We do online and in-person education, seminars, workshops, and things of that nature. So there's a ton of stuff to be written, and my title is Content Writer here. Ultimately, I'd like to elevate to managing editor and manage a team of writers. But right now, it's great to just be helping Troy with his content, with a lot of the things we're putting out, helping people, inspiring, uplifting, serving, details, bullet points, ideas for proven success, the kind of things that anyone can access. That's why we call it Access, AXS. The kind of things that anyone can access in order to improve the quality of their lives. And there's just a tremendous amount of material. I mean, literally, I could be writing 24 hours a day for what Troy has going on.
I'll bet, yeah.
Most of what I do is make sure that there's content on his social media pages. He's got a few different websites. He's got a blog, and I help to edit and write. And then, of course, he's got letters to members of his online success club and copy content. When we have an event, we have one coming up in Reno, so I had to make sure that the wording is right so that people know the value of these trainings that I'm putting out.
Okay. So when you're working with a business that hires you to write for them, is that a relationship that lasts a long time? Is it something that goes for like a couple of months? Do they ask you to write 10 articles? And what's your average business relationship with a business owner?
Yeah, it seems like it's forever. Maybe because I'm a writer at heart, as I mentioned, and even sometimes they stop paying me, but I still write about them because it's what I do. I enjoy content. I enjoy ideas. There's a massage therapist where things, for whatever reason, just weren't working out. He might have been a little bit too rural. And I just said, hey, I'm just going to keep writing about you and what you do because I find it fascinating, holistic health and naturopathy. So in my mind and heart, it's forever. Average, usually at least a year or two. And then, of course, businesses have cycles. So some people just don't have the money, or a couple have gone out of business. A realtor friend of mine ran into some problems. But in general, it can be anywhere from a year to multiple years. And then as far as just writing, whether it's collecting a check or adding them to some of my websites, that part is forever.
Great. All right, give me one of your favorite success stories where you've seen a piece of your writing do something great for a company.
Oh, okay. The Idaho Press Tribune publishes my column on most Saturdays on their community page, and then part of the community section is a money section. And so that piece of writing has really been good for me. It's been good for the community. The Press Tribune has been happy. They always seem to like my content. It's called Write Like a Pro. It appears on Saturdays. And the nice thing about it, with reference to specific businesses, in addition to the newspaper, is I'm able to quote all my business friends. So if I am working with you and writing about you and I'm talking about a principle, for example, share things from your personal life on your business page. That's one of the tips I give, because people like personal. They want to see your baby. They want to see your cousin. They want to know what's going on with you.
Yeah.
And then I'll say, for a good example of this, check out Aspen Morrow from Q Sciences, right? And then she'll see something from her, and then I'm able to link that in the online version of the article. It goes into the print version, which reaches 17,000 people every week. And, of course, it's still there for weeks, months, and years to come. I can always repost it. So my IPT column is a big smashing success.
Good. Great. Well, I'm out of questions. Anything else you want to add? Anything I missed? Anything that you think would be beneficial to people when it comes to their writing or to their marketing that you've learned?
Okay. Just like everybody to know that I'm available. If you have any questions about writing in general, I'm an instructor by training. If they go to michaelrstrickland.com or idahocontentwriting.com, on the pages there's a contact me page, or you can even just go ahead and leave a comment right on the sites.
Okay.
I have a Facebook professional page. It's facebook.com/youpublish. YOU publish. So you can message me through Facebook, and I like to hear what people are thinking, even if you just want to chat about the creative process and need suggestions or tips. And I have a lot of other friends who are writers, so sometimes I'm just not the guy. People are different. I have 5 or 6 good friends that maybe they would work better with. I always like doing referrals. For me, money is just a byproduct. I'm about creating and connecting and uniting the community. So I just want to let everybody know my door's open.
Cool. Well, we'll put all those links in the show notes. I can tell you love what you do. I can tell you do it with a lot of integrity. I've read some of your writing. You're very good at what you do. I'll look forward to kind of working loosely with you and moving forward with all this fun stuff we're doing.
All right.
Thank you. Thanks, Michael. Take care.
Have a good one.
Yeah, you too. Well, there you go. That's some awesome advice. I want to thank Michael Strickland for sharing some time with me and sharing his expertise with you. So, again, my name is Matt Dietz. This is none of my business. You can find me at www.dietzagency.com. You can find me on Twitter at Dietz Agency. You can even shoot me an email at mdietz@farmersagent.com. Make sure you check the show notes on the blog for all the ways you can find Michael Strickland. And I really appreciate you spending some time and listening. All right? So keep up the good work.